let's go through the history of all the lawyers that Sarah Boone has had in the past and see why she has so many lawyers or why she cycled through so many. First, we got lawyer number one. We had the Office of Public Defender was appointed to represent the defendant in this case. However, on February 27, 2020, Mauricio Padilla filed a notice of appearance as counsel of record for the defendant. Defendant in this matter initially applied for and had the public defender appointed as counsel in this matter, but has now retained private counsel and seeks substitution of private counsel for all future representation. So initially, she got public defender. However, she was somehow, I don't know how though, was able to get a private counsel, and he's doing this pro bono. He mentioned this in a different letter that he's doing this completely pro bono. And of course, the state's going to reimburse him for certain expenses and stuff like that, like maybe like flights, hotels and stuff like that. But I thought it was really interesting because this lawyer is, he's from Miami. So he's got his office in Miami. This is happening in Orlando. That's like what, like a 6-hour drive. But if you're flying, what is it like? Really quick flight from Orlando to Miami to Orlando. But still, you got to travel to get there. But like, imagine doing this pro bono. You got to travel, you got to fly to get there, and you got to deal with someone like Sarah Boone. But it seems like, you know, things were fine. You know, a lot of things were happening. You know, 2020, we had the pandemic happen, so probably not much going on there. But then it seems like, you know, stuff was going on. We got all this like discovery stuff, blah, blah, blah. He's like trying to get experts or some correspondence and all that. But I don't know. Something happens 2 years later where lawyer number two was like, you know what? I'm withdrawing. Is this the one where he withdraws? So something happens on May 6, 2022. So roughly a little bit more than 2 years later, this guy's been working on her case pro bono. And all of a sudden, second amended motion to withdraw. The undersigned is forced to withdraw as irreconcilable differences have arisen between undersigned and the defendant that have made it impossible for the undersigned to effectively represent his client. As always, it is difficult to convey all particulars to the court and at the same time maintain all duties to the client. Undersigned's relationship with defendant has become adversarial. The aforementioned adversarial relationship has interfered with the undersigned's counsel's ability to effectively represent his client, especially preparing for trial. Undersigned relationship with the defendant has deteriorated to the point where undersigned counsel can no longer give effective aid in the fair representation of Ms. Boone's defense. Undersigned appreciates the court providing him the opportunity to amend his previously filed motion to withdraw. However, after further researching the issue, undersigned is still under the belief that the specifics of the adversarial relationship may disclose information that may prejudice his client and as such will stand mute on the specifics. This motion is made in good faith for all the reasons stated above. So Padilla Law Group, working on this case for more than 2 years, has been traveling from Miami to Orlando for any necessary court appearances. Was doing this pro bono, and you know what? Something happened, and he's like, I can't do this. I'm withdrawing. So Sarah Boone was previously represented by her second lawyer, Mauricio Padilla. However, now they're going to appoint someone from the Office of the Public Defender. Okay, so this is the court being really quick, you know, like, okay, the other guy withdrew. Now we need to hire someone who's a public defender. All right, public defender hired. So now we have Robert Wesley. This is lawyer number 3. Public defender by and through the undersigned attorney pursuant to The undersigned counsel hereby certifies that there exists a conflict of interest in the above captioned case, and the counsel cannot continue such representation. Shortly after they're appointed, they're like, you know what? I can't do this. There's a conflict of interest, and I need to file for a motion to withdraw. And they said that the reason why they were unable to is because, I don't really understand this part though. A conflict of interest, a conflict has arisen such that the public defender can no longer effectively represent the defendant due to the fact that the public defender's office represented Jorge Torres Jr. So actually, the reason why this public defender can't represent is because their office already represented George or Jorge. And this was actually in the case involving him and Sarah, because him and Sarah were in a domestic violence dispute. And I don't know which in particular. Oh, I think this is the one where he was arrested. So they had to represent him. And they're like, you know what? There's a conflict of interest. We represent the victim at some point. And yeah, we can't represent Sarah Boone. And so there goes lawyer number 3. Now we have lawyer number 4. Is this lawyer number 4 right here? Lawyer number 4. Okay, this is 4 days later. comes now assistant regional counsel and moves this honorable court to enter its order, allowing the Office of Regional Conflict Counsel to withdraw from this case. So another lawyer was appointed, but now this lawyer is like, oh, you know what? I can't represent Sarah Boone because actually there's a witness in this case that we have already previously represented numerous of times, and that is Melissa Sexton. Melissa Sexton, I think I saw their name on the leasing. I think this is like the person that is in charge of like the apartment that Sarah and her boyfriend was living in. So Melissa Sexton, I'm pretty sure I saw her name on the leasing agreement. I think. I'm pretty sure. And so they're like, you know what? We can't represent Sarah Boone because, you know, there's a witness in this case. And that's like the leasing. I don't think it's a leasing agent, but whoever's in charge of the apartment that they're living in. Yeah. So we represented them. So now we can't do that. Next, we got, there goes lawyer number 4. Now we have lawyer number, is this lawyer number 5? Okay. So lawyer number 5 right here. Order allowing the court, the Office of Criminal Conflict and Civil Regional Counsel to withdraw. I think this is the same one, right? It was a different one. This is another person that has to withdraw. Mark A. Consalo. And then I think after this person withdraws, we have, I think this one, doesn't he withdraw for irreconcilable differences? Okay. The cause with having come this is because Mark Consalo's motion to withdraw from further representation defendant, the court having fully advised on premises, therefore, he's allowed to withdraw. And now this is them appointing Frank Bankowitz, the current lawyer that is working on the case. So the reason why this lawyer withdraws, the undersigned counsel has a conflict with the representation defendant that precludes him from further representation in this case. The undersigned asked for a new counsel appointed, Okay, so it just has a conflict. We don't really know what that means. So maybe they're not really specific. Maybe conflict is in terms of like, oh, you know, they have a conflict because they represent someone that's also part of this trial as well. So, you know, even though people are saying like, oh, Sarah Boone went through like, you know, 6, 7, 8 lawyers, it's not really, most of it wasn't really her fault. It was just, there's just conflict of interest, it seems like. However, for lawyer number 2, you know, something went down where there was irreconcilable differences, and also current lawyer, something is going down right now where he at some point did not want to represent her anymore after being assigned, was it like 6 months later? Being assigned 6 months later, he's like, you know what? I would like to withdraw, judge. And the judge was like, no, you can't. And now, yeah, Frank Bankowitz is stuck with Sarah Boone. So that is the history of Sarah Boone and all of her lawyers.